What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an EP review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the new EP from Nader Sadek, entitled The Malefic, Chapter 3. This is self-released. Now, if you're unaware of who Nader Sadek is, he is a graphic artist and visual designer based out of New York. You may best know him for his work with bands such as Sun and Mayhem when it comes to visual ideas and presentations. But over the last several years, he has brought his visual and creative ideas to the form of a death metal supergroup. And it was well evidented with the 2011 release, Nader Sadek in the Flesh. That album featured a who's who of names from within the worlds of death and black metal, most notably Flow of Cryptopsy, Blasphemer of Aura Noir, the vocal talents of Steve Tucker, whom you may remember from his older days in Morbid Angel, Attila from Mayhem, just a who's who of really awesome names, and that was just such a unique and atmospheric take on death metal. From a visual and lyrical standpoint, there was just a lot of great things going on with that project, and it was a debut to remember. Even the idea of this project being presented in a live format. I believe last year was when Nader Sadek brought forth the idea of bringing this project live and in person to a selected audience, and seeing what type of ideas can be presented live made for something incredibly interesting. Now we have the return of Nader Sadek's death metal project, but this time around there has been a drastic change of sorts. And what I mean by that is the inclusion of more well-known names within the metal world. Coming back to this album, or the people who have been involved with this project from the very get-go, Flow and Blasphemer. But you have the vocal talents of Travis Ryan from Cattle Decapitation. You have Martin Rigiel, who used to play in Decapitated, and just a who's who of star-studded names. People from bands like Neuraxis, Sepultura, Cannibal Corpse. Just an amazing who's who of lineups. A who's who of band members for this particular EP. It's only 4 tracks, and it clocks in at around 20 minutes in length, and honestly, this is probably the most contemporary and modern-sounding piece of death metal to come out of this Nader Sadek project. This EP sounds like you're pretty much meat and potatoes sort of technical death metal, but the way everything is being presented and played here, it just feels seamless and easy. And it definitely will be very accessible to anyone who is a fan of death metal, or if you haven't gotten yourself acquainted with any of Nader Sadek's previous projects. I would say that The Malefic is definitely a captivating and interesting listen. The guitar work on here, as in the previous releases, is very technical and definitely showcases a lot of intelligence. When you hear the riff work on the opening track, Deformation By Incision, I just think the riff work is just so intelligent and smart. I love the way that Blasphemer handles himself here when it comes to the guitar work. He definitely showcases himself and his chops very well here. Even later on through the EP with tracks like Carrion Whispers and even the closing track, Descent. I just think the riff work is just intelligent and amazing. Even the solo and lead work that are being done, they brought in Andreas Kisser from Sepultura to do some solo and lead work. And I believe they brought in one of the guitar players from the Death album Symbolic, Bobby Coble, if I'm not mistaken. You can easily tell who is who and doing what on this particular EP, and they both handle the solo and lead work incredibly exceptionally well here. It just sounds so awesome. Then we get to the bass. Pretty much, Martin handles the bass on the closing 2 tracks of this EP. I think he does some tremendous bass work on here. But then you get to the first half of this EP. Once again, going back to Deformation By Incision, you have Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse. He has probably one of the most recognizable bass tones out there of any sort of bassist within death metal or the world of metal in general, and he pulls a sensational bass performance on that track. It's very crystal clear and audible sounding. And then you have, seeing as how Flo from Cryptopsy is on this album, you have another Cryptopsy member on here, Olivier. He also plays in Neuraxis, and his bass work on the track Carrion Whispers sounds really awesome too. Another crystal clear and very well mixed and audible bass tone. Not too technical, but definitely something that can keep the listener intrigued all the way throughout. Moving on to the drums, of course, Flo, being the seasoned veteran that he is, he delivers another very worthwhile and sturdy performance here. Definitely ripened with drum fills, blast beats, and a whole lot of creativity. Something mid-paced and up-tempo. Going to the closing track of this album, Descent, I definitely think he puts on a really solid and sturdy pace throughout that entire track. But then you get to tracks like Carrion Whispers, it definitely feels like a traditional and contemporary sort of death metal track, and I think he pulls it off quite well on there. And when it comes to the vocals, if you're accustomed to what Travis Ryan sounds like, you're pretty much going to feel right at home listening to this. Although I will be honest to say that I do think it feels sort of like a fish out of water, because you would be accustomed to hearing Travis Ryan on a sort of crazy sort of death grind trip. But here on this Malefic EP, it is straight up traditional death metal. And hearing him do the kind of growls that he does, the very guttural voices that he does, it's just really amazing, and he definitely makes the listener that much more intrigued by his vocal performances. Once again, going to the first half of this EP. And then you get to the track Descent. That's where you get his guttural growls and his almost depraved kind of crooning sound. I love that vocal aspect of Travis Ryan, and he definitely showcases his vocal chops when it comes to the singing parts in Descent. I think it's really interesting the way he handles the vocals on that track. But if I had to really think of one thing to complain about in this release, I would have to say that I wish that there was more ambience and atmosphere. I mean, the track Descent definitely showcases all of the proper niches of a Nader Sadek album. I wish there was more of that. And honestly, I would like to think for the next release there will be much more atmosphere and avant-gardeness going on there. But overall, I think this is another solid effort and presentation from Nader Sadek. I'm glad that he was able to get all of these great musicians together to be involved in this project. I think it works out quite well here. I personally still enjoy the Nader Sadek debut in the flesh more than anything, but it gives me hope and great ideas as to what the next great project will be. So I'm going to leave you some links in the description box to some selected tracks that are currently streaming, most notably the track Carrion Whispers and Deformation by Incision. This EP is currently available physically by way of Decibel, Terrorizer, and Legacy Magazine in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Germany respectively, issues 122, 254, and 99 respectively. Soon after that, it will be available digitally, but if you're able to acquire any of those issues, you will get a free CD. This is the Decibel magazine version. I got it with the cover that has Rob Flynn of Machine Head on it. Legit pro CD, very nicely done here. Yeah, definitely something great to have. So I'm going to show you the EP again. This is the Malefic Chapter 3 by Nader Sadek. This is self-released, and it is available on Decibel, Terrorizer, and Legacy magazines. And I'm going to give this a very solid 8.5 out of 10. Really creative and interesting death metal, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter of this Nader Sadek experience. So I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks all for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel, and until the next time, Armijo out.